Yeah, we'll see what happens yet.
Saw a video on Facebook today of Ring doorbell camera caught that tornado in Hettinger, or not Hettinger, but
Mott,
uh,
is it?
Ellen, was it not Ellendale?
Enderlin?
Enderlin.
Enderlin when it went through
Yeah.
town.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah, that was a good capture. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Just for the sake of records, let it be known that present currently is Glenn Reed, Scott Stevens, and Andy Zachmeyer and myself. We have 2 guests present. And then also acknowledging those who cannot make it, Stacy Bendish, Todd Porter, and Larry McClellan stated that they cannot make it, and we'll see if any others come in between time. First order of business would be the review of the minutes from the June 9th meeting. Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion by Andy, second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Just a point of reference again, credit to Wendy Bent, our HR director, who's also serving as our recording secretary for the committee. She actually takes these audio recordings, transcribes them, so she sends me the full transcription. It was kind of interesting to read because, you know, AI captures verbiage, and then she'll take that and creates these summaries. Yep. So again, appreciation for her efforts. Subcommittee updates, again, just touching base. So for the historical research of the war dead for Morton County, the subcommittee for that one. So as of right now, what the files that we have are accurate with the other question of those 7 that you and Nikki have not had chance to follow up with. And now that summer's starting to settle down, probably have more time to connect on that. Anything else you want to add for that?
No,
Okay.
I'm sure when Nikki opens up World War II with me, she'll probably find more.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll just keep open tabs for that. What I'd like to do, and information for the others, is what the data that we currently have, what Commissioner Zachmeyer gave me from the subcommittee on this thumb drive, are one of our staff persons here within the office, upstairs, actually Wendy Bent's assistant, has taken all those biographies and she's compiling trying to create a consistent word length summary of each war dead. And the intention is to have that ready for, because we're also revamping the county's website right now too, right. Very beginning stages, but also working that in with the website redesign for the Morton County Memorial Plaza itself. So a multi-fold approach with what we're doing here. And then for the parameters and criteria for rostering, again, what we discussed just briefly before. So the question lies, what would be the best way to review these? You know, again, it's a plethora, but it's all organized by conflict, alphabetized by last name as Word docs, so it's real easy to review. But the suggestion is we just take a look at conflict by conflict, a meeting by meeting.
Yeah, I'd say in that way, one, we're not going to miss anything. If we, you know, obviously World War I, World War II are going to be the big ones, but if we jump in the middle of those, we're going to get lost in the weeds and we're going to miss something somewhere. So I said we just work through each conflict as we go. And then as more names come in, then once we're through, we'll just go back to the beginning and start all over.
Well, if they're already reviewed and yay,
Yep.
nay, okay, then when,
Yep.
you know, that's a committed roster,
Yeah,
anything new, then we just
Anything
review the
we
new.
can just jump right on them.
Sure. Sure. Then I'll work with you guys to crank out on that one.
Yep.
The fundraising subcommittee, we just met, what one is it, Glenn, last week?
Yeah, I wasn't,
Oh, that's right. Yep, you were tied up yet too.
yeah.
So the fundraising committee met last week, and that's gonna be most of our conversation tonight. Again, the strategy was created some time back. That's all been shared through the different meetings. So we went back and revisited that strategy. We basically had a little bit more enhanced dialogue on the approach. So I want to talk through a lot more with that as we continue tonight yet. So any other questions regarding the subcommittees? Everyone's good to go? G2G. So update from the last county commission meeting, which would have been 6/9, so it would have been about 6/11, I think was the county commission meeting. (6/24). At the June 24th county commission meeting, this was presented to the full commission, the recommendation from the committee to proceed with the existing final draft, final concept, at which time the motion was approved that authorized the Warren County War Dead Committee to proceed with fundraising in support of this final concept. A second motion was made and approved that authorized the War Dead Committee, upon achieving $500,000, that we can initiate the RFP process. So that gave us that much marching orders to move forward yet. So again, the focus would be, and of course, that motion was approved and passed, or seconded and passed. But that gives us that much better direction that we can really start marching forward. So following that, I had conversation, of course, the county auditor, she already stated that she has a line item already identified in the county's budget for any dollars that will come in, of course, be expended for this monument. So that piece of the county budget is covered. Now, I had conversation with the county treasurer, Carrie Hudsonviller, who also said that she does not have any issues, any concerns that we do fundraising through our website as far as credit card portal, anything like that. She has no concerns with that. We can take credit card on our website. So we're working a few pieces of that, make sure that all those components are working the way that they need to be and inclusive for all the parties that want to contribute. But also, what county treasurer also will try to identify is funds that come in. She's going to have that, see if she can't set up an interest-bearing account. So whatever we get in there doesn't just sit there and we get penalized that some of these accounts can be. So those are actions that she's already committed to. And with that, I actually just met with our county public information officer this afternoon. So we're actually going to create a new landing page for the War Dead Monument. We're going to rename it, of course, Warren County Plaza or Memorial Plaza. And that will be in work within the next few weeks. So having it ready definitely within a month. But the focus on that is going to be a renewed landing page that's going to feature the monument as is. It's not going to erase the history of what we've done, but it's going to focus more so on, here's the general awareness of the monument and fundraising needs. So on that main page, I'll also include a link, people that want to donate right off of that, but also have some additional links that'll take it to, here's the committee. Here's details, the members of the committee, here's their minutes, so on, so on, so on. All these recorded videos from the meetings, we're going to upload into our YouTube channel, Warren County's YouTube channel, and store them there. And we can access them for whomever wants to watch, scan through, whatever the case is. Another part of that, a secondary page. So the landing page would be just that, a landing page for the Warren County Memorial Plaza. that'll have the ability for people to make donations on that landing page through specified portals, and we're still working the mechanics of that. But having secondary contact or secondary info that'll have a link that'll, here's the committee, here's what the committee's been working on, here's the background, and another link that'll open up to our roster. And a disclaimer on there clarifying that this is not a final roster, but this is a working roster that we're working off of. So that's in work. That'd be, like I said, probably a good couple of weeks before that's finalized, as we still work with the mechanics of the website itself. And then getting into the fundraising strategy. So as mentioned, you know, the committee, that subcommittee has benchmarks in place. A question if I have it open here. So this was initially created back in January 20. Objective, of course, is to raise the funds to cover the cost of the construction and dedication itself. We have several resources that are not available. We are not going to target any county funds at this time. We'll see down the road what may come into play, but at this time we are not going to target any county funds or public funds. Donation sources. So several pieces that come into play. You got direct mail. The thing with direct mail, you send out 10,000 pieces, you get 3,000 return. You know, your ratio is typically 1 to 3% on the direct mail. So it's definitely a part of it, but it's not one that we want to focus effort on at this time. Moving on. Hey, Nikki.
Hey,
People are looking around. Where's Nikki at? So direct mail is one. Grants, of course, is another. So tying in with the grants, you know, got to be pretty to be able to hone in on some of the elements. So one of the conversations for the grants be working with the Homeland Security grant that can work on the hardening aspect, or whether it's DOJ that might have Department of Justice that might have something that can support the hardening aspect. So that's how we can work the grants. And that's just one example. There might be others out there. Obviously, gaming will be a focus point for revenue generating. Pledges, we talked about that. General donations, creating special events that can support, and working in kind. So the working in kind can be very, very advantageous for this type of a project, because then we can target. My question would be how soliciting the in kind might impact RFP proceedings as far as state law, making sure that we're compliant with that. But again, case in point for in kind is, you know, sign companies to fabricate the monument walls themselves or the placards. Concrete company to
A lot of veteran-owned companies sitting out there right now.
Yep, and a lot of companies that are very supportive of a project like this too.
Yeah.
So that's where that in kind. So step one, this is an ask of everybody, is as you look at in kind particularly, help identify what those elements can be and recommendations on what businesses, and just send me an email with your thoughts for that. And that's for everybody. So that's one. Then we can start assembling that. My conversation with the subcommittee, I think the immediate approach is number one, we need dollars in a checkbook now. Because we need to have good material, good promotional material in place so we can start targeting the big donors. So the first thought for that would be straight up looking at gaming. And What some of you may know, some of you may not know, but you can work with the Secretary of State's office, and you know, I've done this before with other nonprofits that I've done with. You can actually get an entire roster of every business entity in the state of North Dakota from the Secretary of State's office. And from that, you can do mail merge and send out mailings accordingly, or at least be able to identify XYZ business. And that can be broken down by corporations, S corps, LLCs, LLPs, farm trusts, farm families. I mean, every business breakdown that Secretary of State's office has, we can get that rostered from them.
Public record.
Exactly, it is. It'll a small fee, like $60 or something like that, $40, something like that. So I do plan to do that, to include all the charitable gaming, and craft a letter to go out to the charitable gaming as the first solicitation effort. So the thought is, and you guys tell me any you're thinking any different, but the thought is, if we get, let's say, $10,000 in place before we start crafting any better promotional awareness materials, so we can go out and start hitting the next phase. The next phase is that corporate contribution. Okay, and even there too, and in my mind, the corporate contribution, I break down basically just different tiers. So tier one, that be that nationwide corporation that's operating in North Dakota, much less Morton County. Tier two would be those local large corporations. Tier three would be your simple large business. Tier four, Main Street business. Tier five, the private donor. That's kind of a simple way to break it down. But that's where the approach would be, because again, you look at eating an elephant. It's what we're doing when trying to raise $1 million, one bite at a time. So if we look at the fundraising component a very simple way, get one donor at $1 million. We can't get that, 2 donors at 500,000. We can't get that, 10 donors at 100,000. It makes it that much easier. And that's how we can kind of target which businesses would be best to ask. But even on the ask, I think it would be beneficial if XYZ business is approached with 2 members of the committee, not just one. Because that way you've got one person in each arm. Twist the arm.
Good cop, bad cop.
Well, by
That's
the way,
right.
we're all veterans and we're not leaving until you can, so you can decide how this is gonna work out.
Yep.
That was a joke for the recording.
They'll never find the body.
Let's see what else we got. But that's what we discussed at the last the subcommittee meeting. Glenn wasn't able to get there, so Gary and I chatted on that. He fully understands that approach. My question is, anyone else?
Makes sense to me.
Any other? Nick, you got any input?
Is there going to be any recognition
Hold on.
for businesses that donate over so much amount?
I got mine. Oh, it's not plugged in. It's old.
It's done and waiting for a response. She just saw you get the cord. Now she's like, oh, okay.
Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Is there going to be any recognition for businesses that donate over so much?
Yes. We've discussed that. We have not really hammered out exactly what that is. I think that's something we can definitely chat on further.
I think that is going to be a question for sure.
Yep, donor recognition. You can see the screen, right?
Yep.
So determining dollar level of recognition, applicable presentation for each level. Suggestion is beginning at $1,000 donation.
Okay.
And then confirming, as we chatted earlier, as a full committee, we collectively are not keen on commercializing this, right? But if we have something that contributing business person can receive as a recognition, whether it's a certificate, a plaque, something, some type of a statue, I don't know, something. Maybe it's a miniature version of the three walls itself. Maybe it's a miniature version of the Soldier's Cross, something that we can offer. And maybe that is broken down to the level of giving as well. But having something that we can present to the business publicly, so working the awareness for them as well. And maybe for some of the larger ones, we have that at the ribbon cutting. We discussed that. We didn't come up with a final game plan for that, but we discussed that. And then the other part is, identifying them on the website as contributing supporters, but not having a plaque or anything like that on the monument nor inside the courthouse. We can't do that.
Okay, that was gonna be a question, some of these people, they say, oh yeah, I'll give you $250,000.
Mhm.
I want my logo on that monument as one of the key donors,
Right.
John Hancock.
and, no. Okay, nice meeting you.
Right. And that's the other reason we're having, which I didn't mention before, but having talking points when we go into these meets with these potential businesses, because those types of questions can come up.
Yeah.
They,
But
they
Go
will
ahead.
come up, I guarantee.
Yep. But having that response, not so much that we don't want their name on there, it's more so how can we recognize them in a different manner, and case in point, invite them to be a speaker at the ribbon cutting.
Would you have a website you can put their names on also
Yeah.
at some point?
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. We're building a website and met with them about 3:30 this afternoon. So that is in work. So recognize them on the website, definitely. Working with media awareness for their contribution, definitely.
Mhm.
Having some level of recognition to them that they can display in their place of business, definitely. Because I think that's going to have a better return for them than, having a name on a wall on a government project. So go ahead.
We are going to have the leftover slabs of granite left over from the original wall. Is there something that we can do to work in using that as, I don't know, can we engrave something into that?
Short answer, yeah.
They're on the benches.
Yeah, short answer, definitely yes. It's just, okay, what is it?
Right.
Yep. I would agree. I mean, that's where the question lies is, at what level? So again, the strategy we identified for the fundraising subcommittee, they identified starting at $1,000. Anything less than $1,000. And let me preface this also, and this is a conversation I had with the county treasurer, is as the contributions come in, to be able to capitalize or catalog them by level of donation, so that a simple thank you letter can be sent back to them, that identifies that contribution, the tax ID number. They can do with their taxes as they see fit. Same thing for the in-kind, but for those that aren't aware, when you're doing an in-kind contribution, the business that contributes that in-kind can get a tax, let me rephrase that, can be recognized by the IRS if that in-kind relates to their business. And then they also have to identify the value of that in-kind. So I'll go back to the Marine House. When I got Allied Building Products donated all that siding, $7,000 of LP siding. It was relevant to their business. They gave me the value for that siding. We gave them a letter in return. This is the contribution. This is the value. As they determined, this is what it's being used for. This is our tax ID number. They take it to their accountant, they apply it to their taxes accordingly. So that is another piece that will be put into play. So recognizing them that way so that they can take advantage of it. But again, back to this is baseline of starting at $1,000. So we want to create, okay, it's 1,000 to 10,000 to 25,000, whatever that is. We need to come up with that. And then what's going to be a suitable recognition for each of those levels. You know. And then also recognizing, again, what we've identified, webpage of the Wardhead Monument, social media portals, of course. Pending the level of contributions, invite a representative to speak during the dedication. Present the donor recognition during the dedication. And of course, providing an alphabetic roster. No, remember we discussed this also. No breakout of the amounts, just an alphabetical roster, unless it's a significant dollar amount. But then, what is that significant dollar amount? That's what we need to commit to. So feedback. We're all good with $1,000 starting point.
Yeah.
What should be the increments then?
Are we gonna try to are we going to try and track all donations made for a total number of donations?
Yes, we have to. Yeah,
Between $1 and $100,000
between $1 and $1 million. Yeah,
and $1 million.
yeah, we need to. And
Yeah.
having some sort of a visible, measurable display that the community can see.
Yeah, there has been to date 43,841 donations
Mhm.
made for a total dollar amount of this much. Or something like that.
But yeah, a donation tracker, a publicly identifiable donation tracker for gross, continuing gross dollars. And a prime example would be like the United Way used that temperature bulb with the values would increase. So something artistically pleasing, reflective of the project.
And best case scenario is fundraising takes care of all costs involved in the memorial.
Yeah, it would also behoove us, if we get excess amounts, that we set it up in some type of an endowment that can take care of upgrades. So again, for generic fundraising purposes, like we discussed at the last meeting, we're just going to assign a value of $1 million on this until we get to the RFP. Then we'll have an engineer's estimate until we go to bid. Then we'll get hard costs. Then that's going to determine the actual construction cost.
And that's when we can finally stop fundraising. That one.
Well, when that bill is paid.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yep. So again, levels of recognition. And we can assign names on these too. We can discuss that later. But levels of recognition. Again, starting at 1,000. Go to 5,000 or just we'll go to 10,000.
Say 5. Just in anticipation, we're not gonna get, like you said, I mean, ultimately we want one guy with $1 million, but I kind of have this vision, we're gonna get a lot of smaller dollar amounts, I think 1 to 5 is kind of the small business.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then as we get into these larger businesses, larger donations, then you could literally go, 5,001 to probably 15, then you could take that 10 grand jump.
Well, I'm questioning if we go up to 1,000 would get recognized this way. That's one way.
Okay,
Up to 5,000, from 1,000 to 5,000, or 1,001
right.
to 5,000 would get recognized this way.
Okay,
And go with that type of a pattern. Or again, you want to go just 1,000 to 5,000. And then 5,001 to 10,000.
you know, it's kind of like there's a reason why when you go to the grocery store, things are 88 cents, right? Because $3.88 is less than $4. It's 12 cents, but the way the brain works. So you want to set those levels. So if there's that guy that's playing around right at, you know, thinking, oh, I really don't want to drop $4 grand on this. So you don't want to set it, you know, 1 to 1,000. This guy's like, well, I can't do 10. So if we keep those steps a little bit shorter, I'm thinking people will be a little bit more apt to take that step.
Yes, but I'd also caution on diluting it.
True.
There's one thing, an old friend of mine, Daryl Dorgan, when he was executive director for the Cowboy Hall of Fame, he taught this one simple measure for fundraising. Know where you think their stopping point is and go a little further. Because if their stopping point is here and this one is still within reason, they'll go a little further.
Yeah, that's true.
So
And we could have it, you know, up to 1,000, like 1 to 5, 5 to 10 or 15, and then anything over 15. We'll put them in that top category. And then reserve the special recognition category for anybody who goes over, you know, 50 or 100,000. We get $100,000 donor, their name's going to be on something somewhere, and you're going to hear that name several times throughout this whole process because they just gave us 10% of what we need.
well, I'll be honest,
and-
I feel no reason why we can't expect a $500,000 donation.
And then again, another level.
Get a $500,000 donation, I'll cut the grass.
Let the minutes reflect.
Yeah. Thanks, Ray.
Now,
And
No, honestly, I think it's, I wouldn't rule it out to get a $500,000 donation. I definitely would not rule it out.
money's out there.
It's out there, just the fact
a
of,
matter of
will they find a connection with this
Yep.
project?
get them to separate with it.
Yep. So that's why I'm also looking at the breakdown. I don't want to dilute it,
Right.
but I don't want to make it unrealistic either.
Right.
So, well, again, going in a grander scheme. Let's just say 1,000 to 10,000. And we identify what that recognition is accordingly, right? And this is just conversation. So,
What would you do with multiple donations from one person that wouldn't have, well, now I can give you $1,000 this week, next week, or a month down the road, I can give you another 1,000. So is that gonna be?
That'd
Or
be
is he gonna go the
2,000.
big one? I mean, he
It'd
he
be
could end up
cumulative.
$15,000.
yeah, it would be an
You'd
accumulative,
have to have it accumulative.
Yep,
correct.
absolutely.
Yep. And this breakdown would incorporate a cumulative, because again, if we are able to track that and be able to recognize that towards the end of the well, end of construction. So I'm just gonna pick again here. So 1,000 to 10,000. Again, I'm just arbitrary. 10,001 to 25,000. 25,001 to 50. $50,001 to 100. Yes?
Yeah.
Nikki?
And
Okay.
then beyond that, I think it just needs to be
Over 100.
individual over 100. And then that would bring in individual recognition specifically to the donor.
Right.
Not grouping them in a category. This, this is our gold category here, but then you've got, this person, who graciously donated $250,000. That have to be,
I guess rightfully we should almost have a, $1 to 1,000. Just having that.
Yeah.
And the other charge, and we don't need to discuss this tonight, but what we call insurance categories. Do we want to give them a name? Something harmonious with the project too. But again, the categories of $1 to $1,000, $1,001 to $10,000, $10,001 to $25,000, $25,001 to $50,000, $50,001 to $100,000, and over $100,000. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories, including the $1 category. So again, chew on that, but do we want to go with this tier?
sounds reasonable.
Nikki's nodding too. Okay. So do you want to go with consensus? Or you want a motion on that?
Let's just go with it.
Consensus? Okay. And that include in-kind contributions too. So that'd be a cumulative and in-kind.
Now, does it need to be a motion seconded and voted on to become anything, or consensus is good?
Consensus can be fine.
Okay.
Yep. Another consideration would be, and again, going back to the pledge, which kind of ties in with the comments over on from our visitors here, would be pledges require more effort to track.
Right.
And not oftentimes, but sometimes pledges never materialize 100%. Okay. We understand that, but that doesn't mean that we can't consider that. But instead of a pledge, what I'd also look at, and this ties in with that corporate contribution, is spreading it into a 2-year payment plan.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I go back to, I honestly feel that a $500,000 contribution is feasible, especially if we break it into 2 years. So that's $250,000 each year that they can break out quarterly.
So who does all the bookkeeping for all this?
It'll be a joint efforts right now. The county treasurer will receive the funds, but working with the website, identifying some way to database to capture the contributions, and that'll likely be within the committee itself that'll monitor that. Because I don't want to have to exhaust county employee
Yeah,
time for this. But very valid question though.
I think we're better
Gonna
off
take a
letting the
little-
auditor handle it.
Well, either way, but creating a, some type of a database that we can populate with the contributions. And whether it's, the auditor or, well, the auditor, the county auditor is going to have the responsibility of tracking the dollars. Part of the budget, because these will go into a budget. They won't get expended until authorization to expend, in other words, the bids have been accepted, authorization has been given to move forward with the actual construction. So then as the bills for the construction come in, they get paid accordingly, okay? But in the same breath, as the dollars come in, they get entered into the system, accounting wise. They'll get tracked either on the auditor side or on treasurer side or both sides. But in the same breath, as we as committee go out soliciting too, we need to be tracking it just the same. And what I've done in the past is just working with the treasurer, as an example of a nonprofit, working with the treasurer and just I maintain the roster of who I know is making commitments, bounced off checks that are actually received, checks and balance. That's going to have to come into play.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Yep. So again, going back to a 2-year commitment, I think that would be more palatable for corporate to consider. But I'd also take that on a gaming side too. I would hit up those gaming organizations on an extended time frame. If not a 1 year, definitely on a 2 year, 1 year at a minimum. So I'd hit them up, example. I'd hit them up for $10,000 a year. Or no, I'm sorry. I was looking at like say a $20,000 or $25,000 a year, which equals to $5,000 a quarter. That's for what I know of these charitable gamings.
It's a pretty easy.
That's
give.
pretty easy give.
Yep.
And that brings dollars in that we can start building promotional material, getting recognition, paying for postage. Because the other part of this, when we tap into the individual donations, that Christmas timeframe, that is the sweet spot. From the middle of the month. So having everything ready for distribution by mid-November at the latest. And be collected by the end of December, because people are in the giving mind. Additionally, around tax time. Because they will think of it in the sense of giving because they had too much revenue. They need to find outlet for contributions. It may not register for the taxes of the previous year unless they're working with their accountants, but that's completely on them. It's a second signal for giving. So fundraising strategy, those are things that we look at. But the other thing as well is we talk about all the expenses. So yeah, we have to look at all the expenses. So if we do a direct mail.
So do you have something already as an operating budget? I mean,
No.
you gotta have some money to.
Well, no, we don't, because right now we have zero money.
Okay,
The focus is get the money in first, and then we'll start building what we need.
yeah, but what about, you'll need money to buy postage stamps
Correct.
or whatever.
Correct.
So,
Yep. But yeah, that will come into play. But right now we have zero.
Yeah.
So we need to build the kitty
a
first
little bit.
before we can really start. And in the meantime, yes, we'll build that expense. Because we have no idea what we need for printing right now. We have no idea how big of a mailing we want to push out, because we haven't gotten that far yet. Because we literally just got the authorization, the speed of government. We just got the authorization to move forward with fundraising, and this is the first time for the committee to meet since that authorization.
I see.
You're literally on the ground floor.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So the website, that is internal as far as cost. That is internal. That is going to be a few hours a week to execute till we get it all set up and ready to roll. But that's also part of that person's job duties. Okay. However, we create flyers, we create brochures, we create placards, we create, I'm looking at, again, in all transparencies, Hebron Herald, Glen Ellyn Times, Morgan County News Journal, Mandan News, whichever is relevant, whichever, again, likely working with the North Dakota Newspaper Association, do full page ads with the QR code. I mean, in all reality, and that ties into that Christmas time frame and the awareness. And every so often, we have to look at that for that continued awareness. Because again, it'd be great, going back to the second motion that was made by the full commission, is once we get $500,000 in committed, we can go to the RFP. So the objective, of course, short-term is what we mentioned with the subcommittee. Short-term objective is $10,000 to start working the promotional material.
Are you talking about an RFP for construction or an RFP for design?
For the design,
The engineered or
Yep.
blueprints?
Yep, with the full detailed scope, correct? So the short term is that 10,000, we can start working the promotional. The long term, or the next phase, would be that 500,000, so we can get to the RFP, so we can detail everything. Then we petition for the authorization to move forward with bids. And the overall intent, of course, is try to get next year's construction cycle, depending on our ability to get the commitments collectively. And honestly, this is a task for the entire committee.
I think maybe starting with some of the veteran service organizations might be a good start, just because they're almost a guarantee. In one organization, I think you know what I'm talking about, for sure would donate.
Yep, actually, there's a couple of them that have already given verbals, but indeed,
And in American Legion already get $5,000 check.
right. I don't know if that's in the account yet, but
It should
they
be.
gave the verbal on it.
No, they gave me a check. I turned it in.
So we do have money.
We are getting paid.
So the other ask as well, and this goes back to, like I suggested on those tiers. So as each of us as committee members, and feel free to email me, text me, whichever email preferred, and I can catalog it. But you think of these national corporates that are operating in Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota. Drop me a line. If you know who a contact person for that entity is, drop me a line. You know, I got a few right off the top of my head that come into play that are actually working in Morton County that I've already had conversation with, and they're waiting for us to finalize this piece, and they're ready to give also. Same thing for that tier 2, those local corporates. We can immediately think of several of them. And that's why I say I think we can easily obtain the dollars within the time that we need. And then you start looking at the Main Street businesses, the owner operators. You know, tier 3 and tier 4. But like I said, we look at that contribution. It'd be great if we get that one contribution for $1 million. Fabulous. Recognize them right away. We start moving forward. But again, we can't get that $1 million. Is there a reason why we can't get 2 at 500,000? There's no reason why we can't. Or 10 at 100,000. There's no reason why we can't. So if that helps in the mind as far as making this achievable.
Yeah, that I think that for me, that was the big like hiccup. Like $1 million. $1 million when you step back and look at the money that is out there. I mean, 20 years ago in North Dakota, it would have been tough. Not so much anymore.
And even if it matters, or I'm sorry, if it helps is as you're looking at those business entities, look in their price point. Who's out there that will give it $1 million? Who's out there that'll give it a 500,000? Because that'll help dissect that roster real easy too.
And I think, getting the money is one side of it. But like you were saying, if we go over a little bit on the fundraising, then we've got something that we can, have for maintenance. Well, I mean, is there a cutoff to fundraising, shut off the QR code so no one else can donate or anything?
No,
Because, I mean, it's fundraising for this project, $1 million price tag. And all of a sudden, we're sitting on 1.5, $2 million in this account from half a dozen, deep pocket donors. What are we gonna do with the extra $1 million that's left over after everything is all said and done? That's a heck of a lot of maintenance,
Mm.
Uh,
Well, number one, we're
I mean, is it, I don't want one of the donors coming back, well, I didn't want to pay for the mayor's new parking spot.
me either, because this is Morton County, not City of Mandan.
You know what I'm saying?
I
You
do,
know what I'm
I
saying?
do. But honestly, though, so remember, for fundraising, we don't have a dollar, we don't have a cost identified because we haven't gotten that far yet.
Right, spitball.
Exactly, we're spitballing $1 million. What'll come back at, I mean, right now, you know this on your work too, right now, the way that the dollars are, the bidding is, bids are coming in under engineered costs. How often does that happen?
Mhm.
So, if we're a year away, right now, there's a lot of there's a lot of construction firms that are looking for work right now. That could change a year from now. We won't know that until we get to bidding.
Yeah.
And as in the construction world, Glenn knows this because he plays with this game too. When you set your bids, you're projecting when your start date is because they're planning accordingly too. So that's all factors. But yes, heavens forbid we get in excess of revenue. We set up an endowment for the maintenance. Okay. If we are still sitting that strong, we had those large kind of contributions, one-on-one conversations with them. What would you like to do? Can we do something else with this?
I would think it needs to be, focused on kind of what this is about, a veteran type of thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, just a thought I had, we're talking about this and, it's feasible. Well, what happens if it gets more feasible than we had planned and now we've doubled our fundraising efforts and it comes back and it doesn't cost as much as we thought it would.
Right. Right. That's our reality. Yeah. And good things they have in the back of the mind, but as I would look at is if that's a benefit that we have, then we take that as an opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations with those larger donors. I think they would be respectful for that. I would think. Other thoughts?
There's a lot of gaming entities that have gaming sites in Morton County that have more money than they know how to even give it away. Thing about it would be though, is it's not just fill out the request form and mail it to them with some brochures.
It's
Then
gotta
after
be a
you make
pitch.
that first contact, try to get a commitment out of them for quarterly payments. And then after that, especially with the veterans groups, almost quarterly updates of where we're at,
It's a constant.
because they appreciate that and they'll push more money towards it.
Mhm.
And even the base and electric all of a sudden drops $50,000. Just getting mailed updates, not, and I don't know how they would do it. They probably mailing is fine. But as the project continues, here's where we're at. We have now got a full blueprint design. Now we're starting to, looking at, until we get to a certain threshold, then we're gonna put it out for bids and try to get a contract. Okay, when we put it out for bids, we got the contractor, here's where we're at now.
Construction's supposed to start this date.
And let them be part of the groundbreaking.
Planned completion is this date. you
Yep.
know. Put progress schedule.
The brochures are all nice, but if it's all gonna just be mailing and we'll just mail it to them and see what we get. Chances are they're not gonna
No.
be overly excited.
And I would agree 1,000 times on that one as well. As step one would have to be a direct contact. The brochures and the pretties, if you will, those are enhancements with that face to face.
Mhm.
Because you're looking for that higher level contribution. It requires that intimate interaction. That's the only way you're going to get that level of commitment. But even still with the gaming, again, it happens time and time again when I go to various other entities across Martin County. You put in your request, that's one thing, but make sure you request time to speak and present about it. So they can ask you the questions directly. And they get that. It's all about making that connection. Fundraising is all about making that personal connection. And if that connection is not made, you're not getting anything.
It's all sales.
It's also about respect for the potential donor.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And part of that is making sure that you give them that face to face.
Absolutely.
Indeed. But that also goes back to when we, as a committee, work that piece of it, we go as a team. Because that's the best way. Because again, what a good cop, bad cop. I think that the metaphor is there. It's more so this perspective enhancing the same perspective. Two voices, same message.
We should be giving presentations to every city council too.
That's I didn't mention it, but yes. In fact, I already got my first request to not only every city in Morton County, but also every entity. Toastmasters, Kiwanis. I'd say JCs, but they're not around anymore, but you get the point. Toastmasters, Kiwanis, Optimus. I think I'm meeting with the Kiwanis next week, Monday already in Mandan. But developing that schedule, getting that out there. I'll be creating an updated slide presentation to support this next phase. Sometime between now and Monday.